Old people like myself tend to say that everything was better back in the day. I'm more of the kids are all right crowd. Hell, I'm a kid myself to an extent. But one thing is undeniable. It was different. The internet was different. I used to think it was far more raw and uncensored, filled with shit that has probably left millions of kids with untreatable, unintentional PTSD. We had websites like Live Leaks, where you could find everything from cartel, ISIS, white supremacists, and other kinds of gore videos, as long as you knew how to press the 18+ button. Social media, influencers in particular, were finding their footing. It was mostly innocent little content, talking about hobbies or interests, educational content, or just the usual flexing of wealth or physical fitness and beauty. There were two internets, and while one would sometimes leak into the other, with random gang shootings popping up after you scroll past your grandma's kitty pictures over on Facebook, the truly messed up shit, war in particular, was on its own independent part of the web. Still very accessible, mind you, but limited to those who looked for it. Contrastingly, today, this sort of content has not only found its footing on mainstream platforms from TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but it has birthed its own category of content creators, what we will call war crime influencers.
Not normal what's going on, but guys, we are gonna win. We are together. We're strong.
The worst thing I could see on my timeline back in the day was a Logan Paul video. Now I casually see shit like this.
Alright, gentlemen, I want you to repeat after me, just how I do it. Ready? Your turn.
You see, the leak in Live Leak kind of tells you that most of these videos were uploaded by a third party after they uncovered it somewhere in the depths of the web or in IRL. Cartel bosses wanted fear, sure, but not TikTok followers. ISIS wanted respect and panic, but not to pop off their online brand. Today, we have people who, using their own name and often face, proudly post their heinous acts of war, often criminal, as a means to normalize what they do, get clout or fangirly adoration. Nowhere has this been more prevalent than in the IDF. Global condemnation by almost all mainstream internationally accredited civil rights organizations of the so-called conflict in Gaza, which has cost the life of over 20,000 Palestinians, have been unilateral, yet nobody acts. The call for ceasefire comes from billions of people from all over the globe, and yet nobody acts. 80% of all world governments have formally called for a ceasefire, and yet nobody acts. And now, even after all of that injustice, we are forced to watch the perpetrators gloat about their actions daily on our timelines as an online army of absolute freaks proceeds to post themselves taking immense pleasure in the suffering they're inflicting, all while no platform dares to touch or remove them.
לכל מי ששאל למה אין לימודים בעזה, אופס, נפל לנו טיל עליכם, איזה בסיו, חבל.
How did we get here? That particular army from that particular apartheid state has been always known for its love of posting.
Last Friday night, yeah, we mixed our credit
And while it was almost slightly distasteful, as these videos would go up in between random acts of ethnic-based violence being committed on the streets, it was mostly just that, dancing. I mean, yeah, the IDF has always been very good at pitching their army to Westerners as one being of quote-unquote higher caliber than those of their neighbors. Look at us, we're so silly and chill. We have vegan food that we serve because we care about animals and ethics. We have all these beautiful people in uniform. It almost looks like we're edgy New York content creators, not a brutal occupying army. Speaking of someone who's not a brutal occupying army, just a guy who posts on the internet, are we really going to let these people have more subscribers than me? That can't be right, so go on, press the subscribe button right now and contribute to less war crime endorsing videos on this big little platform of ours. Anyways, I can't believe I'll say this, but I miss those little cringy dance videos, because what we have now is far more mask off than any journalist could dig up. Now, people have been recording themselves doing vile shit in conflict zones since we invented the camera. This is nothing new. But the total sheer level of shamelessness to put it on platforms accessible by billions is something I hadn't seen, well, ever. I can only guess where this audacity to post shit like this comes from.
מה, לא עונים? נעשה שוב. מוזר, נראה לי אין אף אחד בבית.
What I suspect motivates such open flaunting of pure spite and hate through physical acts, mind you, much worse than just verbal, is the internalized notion this whole army has, and even the state, that they're completely and utterly untouchable. And can you blame them? Look at what's been going on for 3 months now, and except for a few boys with choppers over in Yemen and a few corporate boycotts, there has been no, absolutely zero consequences to speak of. When you think you're untouchable, then you have no reason to believe in consequences. That, or you are so certain that you'll be the victor who writes the history, that you see this as not much more than just gathering good old trophies. It's gotten so bad that the military probably has concerted efforts to stop it, and the fact it can't, while being quite literally the kings of military PR, tells you just how surface level the shit we're seeing really is, since that's the only stuff that actually gets through. I mean, we're talking about a country which has a whole department of internet scavengers that both post, manipulate, and push rhetorics online, as well as a country with defined organs to getting people thrown out of their jobs, sometimes rightfully for expressing anti-Semitic lunacy, but other times simply due to their support of Palestinian rights. But enough about the army. What about the internet's role in this whole thing? The reason I mentioned that I no longer believe that the internet used to be more raw and uncensored in the past is because we don't even notice when something is raw and uncensored nowadays. People aren't getting long-term scarring from violent footage anymore because it's absolutely everywhere. In the last 3 months alone, without even looking for it, I've seen countless death and destruction, and likely so have you. This, as messed up as it sounds, is the good side of this whole story. Thanks to the internet, we're able to get insight far quicker into what's happening on the ground in some of the most hellish war zones on Earth. But while we have access to it, this very same constant exposure makes us less receptive of it. No shock value, no anger. That old saying, one dead man is a tragedy, 1,000 is a statistic, can very easily be applied to how we browse the web. You get shocked once or twice over the same thing, and then it just turns into a sort of torture porn experience for you. While those very same people, in their flesh and blood, never stopped going through the horrors on the ground. The question I won't be answering because there's not enough data to actually answer it keeps lingering in my head. Are we more empathetic of the horrors of the system, this world, the monsters in it, because we can see them through our screens? Or are we more distant than ever? The millions of people on the streets calling for an end to this barbarity give me optimism. But it really is too early to tell. If it's that desensitized for us, what do you think it's like for the so-called soldiers on the ground committing these same acts? Normalized to the point of posting means it's the same to them like posting a new watch, a night into town, or a wedding photo. Social media is our compass to what is seen as standard, as normal, so to say. If you're posting it for the whole world to see, then you must not feel ashamed of it. Hell, you might even feel proud of it, and for you not to feel shame towards something, you must find it to be normal. Well, tell me, how can someone who posts this be normal? It's almost as if the general need to post is unironically, and sorry, but this is genuinely funny. It's almost as if the general need to post is more important to some people than staying out of jail. It's not the internet's fault. It's not some blood or culture thing either. It's a state deepening into fascistic genocidal fervor, which leads to a change in what is defined as normal that turns its perceived enemy into a dehumanized punching bag. Just nowadays, it also posts about it. Over 30 years ago now, many people calling themselves patriots from every corner of the little peninsula that birthed and bred me, the Balkans, did unspeakable things in the name of this or that cause. Hatred, revenge, or straight-up sociopathy unlocked by the total moral free-for-all which is war. Many of these same men recorded home videos of their deeds, thinking they're untouchable, thinking they'll be victors. And while many remain free to this day, a lot of them are rotting in jail or in the ground, because their vanity reached such heights that they recorded their ungodly actions. Receipts, ladies, gentlemen, and tovarishi, eventually fall out of our pockets, and the IDF has a lot of receipts. As of the making of this video, in a case against Israel by South Africa in the International Court of Justice, these very same videos have played a large role in depicting this terrifying bloodlust exhibited by those very same war crime influencers. At the end of the day, who cares about our discomfort while watching any of this stuff? Who cares about consumerist social media culture fueling this or whatever? I say, if evil wants to unmask itself, let it, so the whole world can see. Thank you for watching. Now, be a good tovarish and smash that subscribe button if you liked what you saw. Or, even better, if you are able to, check out my Patreon, where for the price of less than a can of beer a month, you can help this channel run. Now, I'd like to take a moment to thank all my wonderful patrons without whom none of this would be possible, especially